The musical King of Hearts was based on a 1967 French film that had a cult following among college students of the 60s and 70s who identified with the theme, similar to that of Anyone Can Whistle, that lunatics are saner than so-called sane people.
It's 1918 in a small, wow, that's crazy. The beds look like they're flying.
I wish the Mid-South looked like that right now for Lion King. I wish they had to do it on that side.
Okay, so it's 1918. We're in a small French village, and the Germans have planted bombs set to go off in time for the arrival of American troops. The town is evacuated except for the inmates of the local asylum, and one American soldier is sent ahead to defuse the bombs. Taking refuge at the asylum, he leaves the gates open, and the inmates wander into the deserted town and live out their fantasy by assuming roles of prominent townspeople. Finally, the soldier locates the bombs and decides to remain with the lunatics.
Yeah, Don Scardino. The show played a pre-Broadway tryout in Westport, which starred the 22-year-old Robbie Benson. Yeah, that's right. He was the Beast later on in Beauty and the Beast. When the show came to Broadway, it starred Don Scardino and Pamela Blair. Yes. The music of the show had all of the charm of France and all of the joy of pure Americana. This score is amazing. You guys should all buy it and listen to it. Now here to speak, the composer and lyricist of Salvation, as well as the composer of King of Hearts, Peter Link.
Good evening. Fascinating looking at these pictures. I haven't seen some of these people for 30-some years. Well, let's see, a story. King of Hearts opened in 1978 on Broadway during the New York newspaper strike and ran for, it said, somewhere it said 48 performances. I don't remember it that way, but that's probably the fact. But nobody knew it existed because there were no newspapers. And this was pre-television, so it just kind of went. It did not get the right production. The director, God rest his soul, got confused and decided to take this small little musical and build it into this huge, giant Broadway production at the Minskoff, which was the coldest theater in New York. It was a big hit in Westport, the Westport County Playhouse, and a huge hit in Boston, where it tried out. But as it moved closer and closer to New York, it got confused, and it got bigger and bigger, to the point where my probably least favorite critical review was, the audience left singing the sets. That's not a favorable review for a composer. However, before I tell this one little story, I will say that after King of Hearts closed, an early closing on Broadway, the writer at the time, Steve Tessich, who had actually quit because he wouldn't write the director's ideas, and Joe Stein, who wrote Fiddler, took over and did a very nice book. But the original Steve Tessich came back, and Jake Brackman, who was the lyricist, who you may not know that name, but he wrote many of the lyrics with Carly Simon, for Carly Simon's song. The three of us got together and rewrote the show that we always wanted to write. And since then, it has played in hundreds of theaters all over the world for the last 35 years. And we've made a nice little living off of it. But mostly, we've seen the show be what it started off to be. So perhaps it wasn't the world-renowned show that one would think of for a Broadway hit, but it has definitely had its life. So singing the sets, here's an example. At the Westport Playhouse, there were 3 benches of different size, and we did the closing song in the first act, which was called The Coronation, where the King of Hearts gets coronated. And it was, the chorus was on the sets, all packed into this tiny little country church. On Broadway, Santo Loquasto, a fantastic designer, imagine a theater with twice the size, twice the height. And he created the roof of a cathedral, the bombed out roof of the cathedral, that went from here to from here, all the way up, twice the size of this. And we spread the cast out on the roof, everyone hooked in with wires, scared to death. Imagine standing twice as high as this, and no one stood anywhere near each other. Now, there must be a lot of actors and singers here, so imagine what it's like singing in chorus, but being separated by miles apart, right? It's not much fun. The beauty of the set was incredible because when the lights came up on that set and the curtains parted, the audience, a couple of nights, they stood up and applauded the set. And because in the areas where the bombs had hit, the light was pouring through. And it was a gorgeous, breathtaking moment that never got topped. And the first act ended, whereas it had always ended before with a standing ovation. That's pretty good when you get a standing ovation for the first act. It ended with people basically disappointed that that moment had never been topped. Let that be a lesson to us all. King of Hearts was recorded by me personally. I produced it about 6 months after the show closed on Broadway, and is available now. Check it out. I think you'll enjoy the music, and thanks for being here tonight.
And now here to sing one of the young soldiers' songs from King of Hearts is Tim Shea.
Hey, look at me, Mrs. Draba. I'm the kid you used to call Johnny Dumb. You said I wasn't up to the curriculum, and I'd likely wind up as a pool hall bum. You can read about me now in the Millertown Gazette. Hey, look at me, Mrs. Draba. I'm the kid you said should be behind the plow, but instead of doing poorly, I'm taking a bow, and I surely wish that you could get a load of me now. Remember when I failed my multiplication? Remember where you made me stand? You never could have guessed the boy shaking in the corner had a destiny so grand, so grand. Well, now it's all in my command. If you never looked at me then, Mrs. Draba, you better get a look at me now. I said if you never looked at me then, Mrs. Draba, you better get a look at me now. If I'd have believed you, Miss Draba, I'd have never had the guts to take this job. I'd have never made the heart of a French girl throb. I'd be peeling potatoes like an infantry slob. Royal robes with all the trappings, loyal subjects cheering and clapping, wise advisors and pals for life, a responsible position, a beautiful wife, an appetite for having fun, and I ain't even 21. If you never looked at me then, Mrs. Draba, you better get a look at me now. Too bad, old bat, with your bottom side a bulging and your top side flat. Tough beans, old bag, your gibble gabble yak yak whistle stop